It may sound funny for someone in my profession, but I do not consider myself to be a particularly spiritual person. In fact, I'm not even quite sure what the term spiritual means. I'm a pragmatist, a realist, a rationalist, an empiricist, if you will. There's a question about whether or not if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a sound? In Massey's world, if a tree falls in the forest, not only does it not make a sound, it doesn't fall if Massey's not there to see it. So it may come as a surprise, however, that from time to time, I believe that God's grace surrounds us in so many ways that we don't perceive, and that every now and then God breaks through. God breaks through this rational, pragmatic world you and I live in. And I want to suggest to you that that breaking through is called an angel. Angelic moments are the moments of God's grace that break through the facade of our normal lives. Now, the text that you have in the lesson plan for today is the text of Jacob going out to meet his brother Esau at Jabbok's Ford and having the dream of the ladder, Jacob's ladder. We all know the story, we all know the song. The angels coming up and down, after which he's touched on the hip, he begins to limp, he's given the name Israel. The text says, that text ends with these words, I am the Lord your God, the God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. Now the rabbis have what's called a midrash on these kinds of texts. A midrash is a story, a commentary, an interpretation. And they have a midrash on the words that this text ends with. And this is what they say. They say, the scripture does not say the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The scripture says the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, because each person has to discover God for themselves. Now I want to tell you an angel story. I have a friend, Harry Pritchett. Harry is a priest of the church. And if you know Harry, if you knew Harry, Harry was either the most dynamic priest you'd ever met, or you didn't get him at all. He was one way or the other. But Harry tells a story about being at a youth conference at Canuga many years ago. And the program of the conference was teaching the kids to build community. There was no theme, there was no Bible theme or scriptural theme, if you will. The theme was, how do we live together in community? How do we trust one another? And all week they'd been through these exercises of living together, of setting the boundaries, of trying to discover who they were as a group. And towards the end of the week, there occurs a moment when one of the girls stands up and says that her billfold has been stolen from her purse. Now this destroys the community. Everyone is just so upset that someone could breach the trust of the community. And they're sitting around late at night, it's 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, they're all talking about this. And finally, when no one says anything else, another young woman stands up and says, I did it. I took it. And she begins to cry. And in silence, she turns around and starts to leave. And just as she reaches the door to the room, a voice from the midst of the group says, stay. Don't go. And then the next voice and the next voice, until everyone is saying, stay, don't go. As Harry tells the story, he says later on they were talking about it. They were trying to discern who was the first voice that said, stay, don't go. And no one would ever admit to it. And Harry said, who knows? It might have been an angel. And of course it was. Those with ears to hear, let them hear.